The 2020 Resident Evil 3 remake has always lived in the shadow of its big sibling, Resident Evil 2. With a shorter runtime, more linear progression, and a heavier focus on action, it's often labeled the black sheep of Capcom's brilliant remake trilogy of Resident Evil 2, 3, and 4. But here's the thing, Resident Evil 3 is a brilliant game. It's a gorgeous, high-octane horror experience that knows exactly what it wants to be. A fast, frantic, cinematic zombie roller coaster. Resident Evil 3 kicks off with an explosive opening. Literally, you're immediately thrust into the chaos as Jill Valentine, fleeing her apartment with the hulking monstrosity known as Nemesis crashing through walls and lighting the city on fire. While Jill begins the game on the run, the story quickly escalates into a desperate effort to save Raccoon City survivors. The game runs parallel to Resident Evil 2, and together they complete the Raccoon City story arc. Jill's escape begins the day before Leon and Claire arrive, and her final confrontation takes place after their departure. The overlap adds a sharp tension between the two games. The city feels like a single living space, viewed from different angles. You pass through parts of the RPD before Leon ever sets foot there. The blood on the walls, the barricade, Marvin bleeding out in the main hall. RE3 gives those moments context. It's the rest of the outbreak. If you're like me, it's worth playing RE3 in between the A and B runs of Resident Evil 2. It adds flavor. Characters are making moves at the same time, chaos is spreading block by block, and you feel the weight of Umbrella's collapse as it builds across both titles. Jill is joined by Umbrella mercenary Carlos Oliveira, a man who initially seems like your typical action movie grunt, but gradually earns your respect through both his arc and gameplay segments. Jill and Carlos alternate control throughout the game, each bringing unique abilities and perspectives to the fight. Though the plot races forward at a breakneck pace, and certain locations like the Clockwork Tower and Raccoon Park are cut entirely, and this is where RE3 tends to receive a bit of heat from hardcore fans. But what is here is tightly written, and more character-focused than in previous entries. For newcomers, the pacing keeps things exciting. For series veterans, it might feel like a missed opportunity to flesh out iconic moments from the original PS1 classic. Still, the return to key locations like the RPD station, set just before the events of Resident Evil 2, offers some neat connective tissue for fans of the franchise. Clocking in at around 5.5 hours for a standard playthrough, it's short, but purposeful. Though one gripe is that there's no real replayability here, making this feel more like a DLC compared to a full game. Alright, let's talk about the gameplay for a sec. This is where Resident Evil 3 separates itself from its predecessor. While RE2 leaned into atmospheric dread and methodical pacing, RE3 is all about chaos. Jill is faster, deadlier, and more nimble thanks to the new dodge mechanic. Perfectly timing a dodge slows time and lets you counterattack, which I'd say they implemented pretty well. Carlos, on the other hand, trades finesse for brute force, complete with an assault rifle and a shoulder check melee move that knocks zombies flat. Enemies feel more aggressive this time around, and Nemesis is a terrifying step up from RE2's Mr. X. He's faster, smarter, and more relentless, able to leap in front of you, yank you with tentacles from afar, and just generally ruin your day. Early on, his appearances are dynamic and nerve-wracking. Sadly, that sense of unpredictability fades later in the game as he shifts into a more scripted boss encounter, reducing the terror to something more manageable. One thing I would say is that he's a lot more predictable than RE2's Mr. X. In my opinion, the lack of heavy footsteps and being mainly out in the streets makes Nemesis slightly less intimidating. But let me know which one you prefer in the comments. Ammo is plentiful here, which I personally think made the game quite easy. But weapon variety is satisfying, and traditional Resident Evil puzzles return, though they can feel oddly out of place at times in such a high-octane environment. And for the true masochists, hard modes and a bonus shop unlock after your first completion, allowing knife-only runs or infinite ammo loadouts. One thing Resident Evil 3 nails is the feel of every single weapon. From the satisfying pop of the G19 handgun to the sheer catharsis of unloading the MGL grenade launcher into something that should have stayed in a petri dish. Jill's loadout feels both practical and powerful, like she's done this dance before, because she has. She's a former STARS member, trained by Barry freaking Burton himself. So when she reloads a shotgun or quick swaps to a grenade round, there's a veteran edge to it. The TLDR on this one is that the game looks absolutely stunning. The facial animations, lip sync, everything is just a level up from RE2. Capcom's RE engine continues to impress. From the burning streets of Raccoon City to the creepy corridors of zombie-infested hospitals, lighting and texture work are top tier. The attention to detail, flickering neon lights, scattered paper drifting in the wind, blood-soaked floors, creates an atmosphere that's both beautiful and unsettling. Character models for Jill and Carlos are excellent, and the visual storytelling through animations and environments often says more than the script. Audio designs help elevate the tension, with subtle ambient cues like creaking metal or distant groans adding to the dread. The soundtrack is a bit more action-focused in this one, and the game has a fair amount of cutscenes to go along with that. The voice acting too is great. Jill and Carlos hold their own, though the script lacks the cheesy charm of the original. You won't hear many over-the-top stars lines from Nemesis this time. Perhaps a good thing. There's a good selection of enemies here. If Resident Evil 2 Remake was about atmosphere and dread, Resident Evil 3 Remake is about getting jumped by the worst science project Umbrella ever approved. You've got your standard zombies, of course, and let's be honest, they're meat shields at this point. But Capcom didn't hold back with the freak show roster. The Hunter Bee makes its triumphant return here, and these things are even more aggressive than they were in the original RE3. They'll leap at you, slice you down, and vanish into a hallway before you can scream Lisa Trevor. And if you think that's bad, the Hunter Ys, those bloated amphibian nightmares, are back too, with a one-hit kill if they catch you off guard. There's also the Drain Demos, which are basically parasitic spiders that feel like they crawled straight out of Spencer Manson's attic. And speaking of lore, there's an entirely unspoken continuity behind these creatures. The Drain Demos, they're mutated fleas, a direct side effect of Umbrella's biological experiments leaking into the wild. A reminder that even the smallest oversight by the Umbrella can turn into a full-blown horror show. And of course, Nemesis, the relentless T-virus-powered Terminator in a leather trench coat. This guy makes Mr. X look like a mall cop, and canonically, he's smarter than your average bioweapon. That's because Nemesis is running on a modified NEA parasite, basically the same type of tech that Las Plagas would eventually perfect in RE4. Yeah, that worm in his brain paved the way for Sadler's cult. The enemy's design is great in this one, although I still prefer the zombies in RE2. Personal preference.
I'm fine.
Personal space.
Resident Evil 3 may not reach the masterful heights of its predecessor, but it's still a confident, slick, and highly enjoyable survival horror game. Yes, it's short. Yes, it cuts content. But what's here is fast, fun, and packed with adrenaline. The dodge mechanic is a fantastic addition. Nemesis is a worthy foe when he's not trapped in scripted boss arenas. And the visuals are breathtaking throughout. Think of it as a tightly focused horror action ride rather than a sprawling haunted house. This is Resident Evil by way of Michael Bay. Big explosions, big monsters, and barely time to breathe. And hey, even if it doesn't reinvent the series, RE3 still proves one thing. Jill Valentine is an absolute badass, whether you're here for the lore, the action, or just to watch Nemesis get blown up for the 5th time. This remake delivers where it counts. We're giving this one a game-wise score of 8.1. It's a must-play for any survival horror or Resident Evil fan. A slightly flawed but thrilling entry in the remake trilogy. Perhaps they should have given this one a bit more time, a bit more content. But if RE2 is survival horror at its finest, then RE3 is the shot of adrenaline that follows. If you haven't already seen our RE2 review, check it out on the screen now, and I'll see you in the next one.